The image that you see on the screen is entitled The Ecstasy of St. Teresa. It is carved in marble, and I've seen it in videos, and it's so remarkable that Bernini, its creator, was so skilled that the marble actually looks like human flesh. It just looks so soft. The work depicts an episode of religious ecstasy in the life of the cloistered Spanish mystic and Carmelite nun Teresa of Avila, as she has described it in her autobiography. So I just want to throw out some words and images that people have used to describe St. Teresa. She was born into a wealthy family, but her mother died when she was just 13, and Teresa was already known for her strong will and tenacity. Became even wilder after her mother died. She was well-educated, insightful, known for her sense of humor, her beauty, and her zest for life. She had no problem speaking her mind freely to God or to anyone else. She was known to be a religious reformer, founder of 17 convents, writer of 4 books, and someone who is known for her writing on prayer, which she suggests is nothing more than being on terms of friendship with God. According to all of those who studied her life, of all the characteristics, Teresa's most captivating quality is what the Spanish call duende. Duende. That raw, primitive, tempestuous energy more frequently associated with gypsies, bullfighters, and flamenco dancers than with saints. One commentator describes duende in this way: fiery, wild, and utterly original. Duende annihilates non-essentials with contempt for neat, tidy categories, accepted styles, cramped forms, and human limitations of any kind. Several of her poems poke fun at those whose leadership is austere and serious. And yet the Pope didn't have her burned at the stake. And so she was able to accomplish some remarkable political and religious reforms in the midst of the most insidious chauvinistic forces, including an investigation by the Spanish Inquisition. Like, who got out of those things alive with their attitude intact? She is remembered as a person who got things done, but more than anything, she was remembered for inviting people to lose themselves in the mystery as one would lose oneself in the embrace of a lover. Here is another poem of hers. Just these 2 words changed my life. Enjoy me. What a burden I thought I was to carry, a crucifix, as did he. But after a night of prayer, he changed my life when I heard him sing, "Enjoy me." And for those who were suspicious of her ecstatic prayer life, she wrote, "For prayer is nothing else than being on terms of friendship with God." In her book, Interior Castle, she describes the mystery in this way. This beloved of ours is merciful and good. Besides, he so deeply longs for our love that he keeps calling us to come closer. This voice of his is so sweet that the poor soul falls apart in the face of her own inability to instantly do whatever he asks of her. As you can well imagine, Teresa's leadership and vision of God as her beloved stood in contrast to much of the leadership within her faith community. And yet, it very much reflected the contrast that existed in Jesus' life as well. That is, Jesus inviting, what's going on here? Jesus inviting his community to embrace a much larger understanding of mystery. So I'm going to read to you a passage from Matthew, but in fact we have 4 versions of it, which says that it's important. Each version is a little different. The characters are a little different. The person in whose home it is a little different. The people who are critical is a little different. But I'm going to read to you Matthew's version. Now, when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment. And she poured it on his head as he reclined at table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. You will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." This particular story, told by all 4 of the gospel writers, is meant to provide us with a model of extravagant, earthy love. There is touch involved and fragrance involved, and the disciples of Jesus are indignant. They are like the priests described by Teresa, who need to be tickled, who need to break out of their boxes of righteousness. This woman has abandoned all protocol for the sake of devotion, raw and intimate. And we hear the story 4 times. And in each of the stories, Jesus is beloved. What a wondrous gift that must have been for him, given where the whole thing was going. We began the season of Lent, this season known for its 40 days in the wilderness, this 40 days of wrestling time, this 40 days of remembering who we are time. By recalling that the passage that is placed just before Jesus is sent out is his baptism that concludes with a voice coming from heaven affirming, "This is my beloved." And I suggested at the time that our earthly task, our daily task, is to remember who we are. And who we are is beloved. I deeply appreciate Teresa's voice in our tradition that doesn't just pull things out of a hat, but goes deeply into the tradition to find those pieces that for whatever reason have been swept under the carpet because they make us squirm.